church friends.
Hope you've had a good week.
I hope you had a good week.
So I wanted to remind you of what our affirmation is. Do you remember it? Well, let me read it to you. The affirmation is, I will remember God is within me and all others. Okay, so last week we talked about Nathan. So let's talk about him a little bit more. It's important for us to remember that God is within us and in every other person and creature that has ever existed. It will be one of the most important things you will ever learn in your whole life. Sometimes as people, we forget things. Do you forget things? Sometimes I forget my keys. Sometimes I forget to make Micah lunch. Do I forget to make you lunch? Yeah. What do you forget?
Playing with you.
You forget to play with me?
Mm-hmm.
But that's just part of being a person, and it's also part of learning. One of the really neat things about Divine Spirit and about God is that God doesn't forget. God knows everything. God's a part of everything. So God's never going to forget about us. Isn't that really cool? I don't know if you all have had a hard year, but we've had a hard year missing you and wishing that we could all be together. And sometimes we can call those dark times. We all have dark times. Even though those dark times happen, we know that God is in us. He's as close to us as the skin on our hands. He's as close to us as our breath. So even when times feel really, really hard, it's important to remember that God never leaves us. So we saw that in the story with Nathan. He traveled all around. He didn't have his dad or his sister around anymore, but God never left him. That's something that can make us feel really comforted when we feel afraid. So I want to tell you about an activity you can try with your family this week. There's a couple different steps to it, but it's pretty neat. If you have a timer at your house, or maybe you have a Google or an Alexa, you can set timers. So I want you to think of maybe every hour setting a timer, or every 2 hours, or a couple times a day setting a timer. And I'm going to go through and tell you what activity we can do. So you can write an inspirational message, a quote that you really love. Like, we really love a Daniel Tiger quote that says, when something seems hard to do, try it a little bit at a time. I don't know if you've heard that one, but that's one that really helps us get through hard things. Maybe you have a favorite Bible verse that you can write down. And so set a timer for maybe every couple of hours, every hour, and write down Bible verses. And this is what we'll do next. So I want you to write it on little pieces of paper. It could be Post-it notes or notebook paper, and place it all around the house. You can put it on your bathroom mirror. You can put it on your bedpost, anywhere where you can see it. So each time you see those notes or those Post-it notes, I want you to take a moment, stop what you're doing, and read those messages. And if you forget throughout the day to do it, then when the timer goes off, you can use that timer to run around the house and find one of those messages and read it to your family. And then you guys can talk about it. So part of what this is this is practice for us to remember that God is always around us and in us in every situation. And when we have evidence of that through these notes all over our house, that'll help us remember. So this is what I want to close with today. The Bible verse we talked about last week was James 4:8, and we're going to review it again today. It says, draw near to God, and God will draw near to you. That's a really cool message, that we can have God here or there at any point in our lives. Okay, church friends, I want you to practice that this week when you get a chance. And maybe if you don't want to write out quotes, you can always draw pictures that reminds you of God. It's important to remember that God is always with us, in us and around us, and that can bring us so much comfort. All right, we ready to pray? Dear God, thank you for being in us and around us and everything we can see and touch and smell and taste. Thank you for being a God that never leaves us. Amen. Bye, church friends.